Never a dull day in the world of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin testing lows again for the second time in 2 weeks, down almost 10% at the lowest point this morning. It's rebounded a little bit, but we have kind of all of the cryptocurrencies testing lows again. So notice that a lot of this move happened last night during the Asian session. What were some of the catalysts that could have caused this?
So this came off the back of Japanese regulatory agencies essentially saying that they were going to enforce greater accounting standards and cybersecurity standards within their region. So the initial response to this seemed like it could have been bullish, but it started to sell off because Bitflyer and many other exchanges right away started to say, oh, we're going to close down new accounts until we see this new guidance. So nobody's opening new accounts in that region. That could be seen as a negative catalyst, as no more retail participations coming in. However, in the grand scheme of things, this actually should be pretty positive. It's in response to things such as BitThumb getting hacked. So I think they're just trying to make a more fair, more regulated, more safe environment. The long-term consequences of that are pretty good. But in the short term, that was a negative that they wouldn't have any more inflows. However, it was probably a lot of risk being managed as the reason for it to continue. It was a little bit surprising of the magnitude of downward movement on this.
And I think one of the other reasons could have been that the FSA, which is the Japanese regulator we're talking about here, also is basically requiring these 6 fairly large exchanges, including Bitflyer, which is number 1, to kind of look over their KYC and AML documentation. So, there very well could be some traders who are currently on the platform who are a little worried about that and about, having to go through AML and KYC again. So yeah, that could have been that. But on other news, out of Japan, actually, again, very busy in Japan last night, the Mt. Gox situation kind of had a little bit of a different resolution than people have been thinking. There was a lawsuit filed by people who were owed Bitcoin, and they won their lawsuit. And what that means is that instead of getting paid in the cash value of Bitcoin when Mt. Gox went bankrupt, they're going to be able to get a pro rata share of the leftover Bitcoins. Now, that's actually big news because Bitcoin is up like 20 times what it was during Mt. Gox's bankruptcy. So that makes kind of a big difference. Does that have any other effects on the market?
That's a substantial amount of effects. I mean, they were holding about $2 billion in a fiat equivalent of Bitcoin. As you may know, some of our algorithms at our fund just monitored all the wallets that this Mt. Gox custodian had, knowing if they sent any to exchange, we should look out for negative price accretion since they're only going to be selling. So this takes a $1.2 billion worth of cryptocurrency that was going to be sold in the markets that now isn't going to be sold in the markets. And if you think of the active amount of float out there, that's actually pretty substantial because, like we said prior, you can buy or sell $1 million worth of cryptocurrency, and typically that'll move the market capitalization $30 or 30 million rather. So it's a large consequence in the fact that you don't have to look for that negative catalyst anymore on the sell side.
All right, right on. So yeah, that is a good thing. We won't have people freaking out about the custodian of Mt. Gox sending Bitcoin anymore. But yeah, so where do you see the market moving from here? This is, there hasn't been a lot of news over the last few days, and volume is still up, or liquidity is still up. Do you think that we move up from here, or we move down, or what are you thinking?
So typically end of month, when you come into futures expiration, you have some seasonality, some negatively accretive seasonality. For this month, I think we're down a lot anyway. And if you look at the long open interest, it's not that great. Actually, it shifted dramatically today, where we had the open interest shifted dramatically to short. So I think we already have a little bit too high of short interest to have more of a sell-off. I think anybody that's going to come in and buy within the next few days or toward the end of the month, we may see a breaking of that sell-off seasonality just on a levels and valuation perspective. Because if you look at network metrics and use of networks, they're actually flashing big glaring buy signals right now. And that's the majority of what people use, such as Metcalfe's law, Reed's law, as far as valuation. And they're usually using sentiment analysis as market timing, which kind of just means they all kind of move in at the same time. So I think if you're trying to get in, now would be a good place to put some amount in and manage risk around that. And just know that either to the upside or downside, it's going to probably move pretty fast still.
All right, well, that's it for the Daily Crypto Trader Report. Thank you very much for tuning in. We hope to see you next time.